right, everybody. We are here for KFC Cool First Chapter books, and this is one of my all-time favorite books. It's the Dollhouse Murders. I know, I tend to like the spooky books. Anyways, this book I read when I was, let me think. I read this when I was like 18 years old, and I was going to college at a local junior college, and I was studying to become a teacher, and we had to read like 50 books in a year. And so for a grade in college, yeah, go figure that. Anyways, and reading, you really, I never read a whole lot of books growing up because I was more interested in the art books. But so I read this book when I was 18 years old, and I absolutely loved it. So this book was written by Betty Wren Wright, and she actually wrote this book. Let me find the copyright. It's usually on the back of the title page. She wrote this in 1983. So I was in college in 1985. So it was a pretty fresh print, written book. And it was one of the reasons that made me fall in love with reading again. I read this book and I was like, oh my God, this is a great story. So of course I had to read some more, and I did read all my 50 books for my class. So I'm glad that I got turned on to reading again. Isn't it amazing how sometimes things like that in life will happen? Oh, another one that's good is on the back. Oh, sorry. It's Christina's Ghost. That was like the second one I read. Oh man, it was even better than this one. Okay, so I'm gonna read the first chapter. Amy Treelor kicked off her shoes and climbed onto a cushioned bench in the middle of Regent's Mall. The mall was crowded with Friday evening shoppers, some of whom turned to stare. Can you hear her? Ellen Kramer asked. You ought to be able to see her. She's so big, Amy finished, and hopped down from the bench. It was true. She should have been able to find Luann's bright blue windbreaker, even in a crowd. At 11, Luann was 2 inches taller than 12-year-old Amy, and she weighed 20 pounds more. She was the biggest girl in her class at the Stadler School for Exceptional Children. My mother's going to kill me, Amy moaned. She hangs on to Luann every single minute when they go shopping together. Did you ever wander away before? Only about 1,000,000 times, Amy said. It was the first time she'd gone shopping with Ellen, the first time they planned to do something together after school. Ellen was new in Claiborne, and Amy was eager to have her for a friend. This will probably finish it, Amy thought. We're wasting the whole afternoon. This will be the shortest friendship on record. What can we do? Does she know how to make a phone call home? Ellen was looking at a window display of designer jeans, probably wishing she could come to the mall alone. She gets mixed up, Amy said. Besides, my mother isn't home yet. Let's go down to the crosswalk. She might be around the corner where we can't see her. As they neared the crosswalk, a squawking sound cut through the piped-in music. A moment passed before Amy realized that the squawking was voices. Oh no, she groaned. She recognized 2 words, Luann Treelor. There was a ripple of childish laughter. Amy darted ahead. Around the corner, a thick carpet had been laid down the center of the walk, and a puppet stage was set up on one end. A crowd of small children and their mothers sat on the carpet and looked up at the stage, where a hawk-nosed puppet was shrieking questions at the audience. In the center of the group stood Luann, her face shining with excitement. She was answering the puppet in a voice as shrill as her own. Amy felt rather than saw Ellen step back around the corner. If only she could back away too, but she couldn't. Already some of the mothers were looking annoyed. Luann! Amy worked her way through the audience, trying not to step on small fingers. I'm sorry, excuse me, please. She grasped the sleeve of the blue windbreaker and tugged. Hey, come on! Luann turned, her broad face radiant. The puppet talks to me, Amy, she said. He asked me my name. Luann moved. This is for little kids. She gripped her sister's wrist. Luann let herself be dragged away, but her eyes didn't leave the stage. Bye, she called. Bye-bye, puppet. Bye, sweetie, the puppet replied. Come back soon. There was laughter and some exasperated sighs from the mothers. Who else is going to talk to me? The puppet demanded. A chorus of little voices sounded behind them as Amy pulled Luann into a main part of the mall. Ellen was several stores away, examining a display of shoes. Her face was carefully blank when they joined her, and she didn't look at Luann at all. What shall we do now? Asked Amy quickly. Do you want to shop for something special for Ellen? Or that could be read, do you want to shop for something special, Ellen? It could go either way. Anyways, Ellen shrugged. We could go to the casual shop and check out their sweaters, she said, if you think it's all right. She risked a hasty glance at Luann. I want to see the puppets, Luann said. Let's go back, Amy. I like those puppets. We're going to the casual shop, Amy snapped. Come on. Luann's mouth opened wide in the beginning of a wail. It's down this way past the flower shop. Amy pointed. Her sister loved flowers. Where? Luann broke away and started down the mall. Amy let her go. There was no reason to hold Luann's hand every minute as long as she kept her in sight. Are you going to buy a sweater? She asked Ellen. I wish I could. A rugby shirt, maybe. I wanted a striped one. They walked slowly, following the blue windbreaker. I can't buy it, but if I find exactly the right one, Ellen rolled her eyes and grinned, I can just sort of mention it to my mom at home. My birthday is in 2 weeks. Maybe Mom will get it for me for my birthday. Mine's the 22nd. We're practically twins. Maybe we can have a party or something to celebrate, Amy suggested. A double birthday party would be so fun. She waited for an answer, but Ellen was looking at the flower shop when Luann had stopped to gaze at a floral display. Uh-oh, she said. That man. Amy followed her stare. A tall man had come out of the shop and was shaking his finger at Luann's face. Luann shrank back and looked around for help. Sounds to me like Luann got in trouble from the flower shop owner. Yeah, I can. Amy started to run. This time Ellen followed right behind her. And don't ever do that again, the man shouted as the girls drew close. You shouldn't be running around alone. He stopped as Amy reached for Luann's hand. Are you with her? Amy nodded. The hand in hers was trembling. Then why don't you watch her? He was furious. Look what she's done. A cluster of yellow tulips in pots stood on a low shelf in front of the store window. One of the blooms was broken and drooped over the edge of its pot. That's a $9 item ruined. The man was mad. I ought to make your parents pay for it. They shouldn't let this kid out without someone responsible enough to look after her. And you can understand that, you know. You need to be careful with things that don't belong to you. So I can understand, you know, the store owner's anger. Amy's face burned. I'm sorry, she said over Luann's mounting sobs. We have tulips at home, and she knows it's okay to pick them. She just forgot. I mean, she understands she shouldn't pick other people's flowers, but she likes them so much. Well, that helps a whole lot, the florist said sarcastically. Somebody better teach her how to behave if she's going to wander around in the public place. Amy's embarrassment was swallowed up in rage. She had $10 in her wallet, the last of her Christmas money from her grandmother. She hoped to pick out a bathing suit today and use the $10 to put the suit on layaway until she had her birthday. Suddenly, though, it was more important to make this man regret his rudeness. We have money, she said. Luann, stop crying. It's okay. She glared at the florist. You said $9? He glared back. Then his gaze flicked over the people who had stopped to listen and was looking at Luann. That poor child, one woman said. She's heartbroken. Look how she's crying. She didn't know any better. You can tell. Amy took the $10 bill from her wallet and held it out. I need change, she said. Luann stopped crying. The mall became very quiet, and the florist started to reach for the bill, then turned away in disgust. Forget it, he snapped. Just keep the girl away from my store. He went back into the shop, muttering under his breath. The mall came back to life. Spectators moved off, shaking their heads, and 3 little girls were left by themselves. Let's get away from here, Amy. I hate that man. If I were a tulip, I'd fall over and die just for having him around. Die? Luann looked down at the bright yellow flowers. She was ready to cry again. Flowers, die. No, not unless you pick them. Maybe we'd better just go home, Ellen said. I don't think I feel like shopping today. Amy felt sick. Okay, she said. Whatever you want. It was just awful. Ellen would tell her mother when she got home and everybody was looking at us. I'll never go shopping with Amy Treelore again. Outside, the sun was low in the sky. An early evening breeze stirred the banners across the mall's main entrance. Luann lagged a few feet behind Amy and Ellen. The puppet show, she murmured sadly as they started across the parking lot. Amy pretended not to hear her. She was waiting for Ellen to say something. You were fantastic in there, Amy. I loved it when you pulled out the money. I was scared to death of that man. What a beast. Amy took a deep breath. Maybe Ellen wasn't completely disgusted after all. I was scared too, she confessed, but he made me so mad. Luann makes me mad too, but I still don't like it when people insult her. She can't help the way she is. That was something Amy kept telling herself. Lately, though, it hadn't helped much. The only time she could feel sympathy for her sister was when someone else spoke sharply to Luann or made fun of her. Otherwise, resentment was always boiling under the surface. I'm sorry Luann spoiled the shopping, Amy hurried on. I didn't want to bring her with us, but my mom made us because she works, and there's no one at home after school to watch her. It's hard for you, Ellen said. I don't know if I could do it. You would if you had to. The words just came out tartly, and Amy rushed to change the subject. About the picnic tomorrow, she said, what time should I pick you up? She stressed the I ever so slightly, hoping Ellen would take that as a signal that Luann wouldn't be coming. The 2 girls had made plans for Saturday earlier in the week, when Amy had mentioned Rainbow Falls north of town, and Ellen had said she'd like to see it. Since they'd be taking their bikes, there was no question of Luann's tagging along. She couldn't ride a bike, though. She'd tried at least 100 times. Oh, I meant to tell you, Ellen said. I can't go tomorrow. My uncle and aunt are coming in from Chicago for the day, and my mother wants me to stay home. She ignored Amy's tiny gasp of dismay. We hardly ever see them. I'm sorry. Maybe we can have the picnic later. Sure, Amy thought of the yellow tulip hanging over the edge of the pot. That was how she felt inside, broken, dead. A few minutes ago, Ellen had seemed to understand what it was like to live with Luann and have her for a sister, but she really wasn't any different from any other girl who was too busy to do things with Amy when they found out Luann might be there too. People were all the same. They walked in silence to the corner where Ellen had to turn south. I'm really sorry about tomorrow, she said. Amy felt as if her face would crack when she spoke. Have fun with your aunt and uncle. I'll see you Monday. Right, Ellen hurried away. Amy took Luann's hand and waited for the light to change. Her sister's face was puffy and streaked with dried tears, but she looked around cheerfully at the busy street. Tomorrow we can see the puppets some more, she said. No way. The toot of a car horn cut through Amy's reply. It was their mother on her way home from work. She waved and pointed to the opposite corner. Amy led Luann across the street, and they climbed into the front seat of the car. Amy was squeezed between the door and Luann's soft bulk. Well, did you find your bathing suit you wanted? Miss Treelore answered, and then, without waiting for an answer, what's the matter, Luann? Have you been crying? Luann nodded. Well, what happened, Amy? Did somebody say something nasty to her? The florist in the mall did. Amy replied. She tried to pick the tulip from the pot, and it made a big mess and a big scene. Luann rubbed her eyes with her fist. And where were you when it happened? Miss Treeler demanded. She sounded tired. She certainly couldn't have been watching her very closely if she had the chance to. I can't watch her every second, Mom. Miss Treeler's lips tightened. Don't be impudent, she said. We trust you, Amy. Luann trusts you. She needs your protection. Afterward, it seemed to Amy that the whole volcano of anger exploded inside her right then. She heard those words many times before. This time, the anger couldn't be held back. I don't want her to need me anymore, she shouted. I'm sick of babysitting and losing my friends and having everybody stare when we go by. I don't want to protect her anymore. I'm never going to take her anyplace again. She had her hand on the door latch, ready to jump out the minute the car pulled into the driveway. She had to get away, even from Luann and from her mother and from the terrible things she had heard herself say. She wanted to run and not stop. You can be sure your father will hear about this when he gets home, Miss Treeler said. I'm going to tell him every word you said. He'll be ashamed of you as I am. She slammed on the brakes inches from the garage door. Amy leaped out and Luann tumbled after her. Wait for me! Wait for me! Luann, you stay here, Miss Treeler ordered. Come inside and we'll have some cookies. Let Amy go. She's behaving very badly. With her hands over her ears, Amy tore down the street. Cookies, she thought. Let Amy go? She turned the corner, trying not to hear the plaintive cry that followed her. Tomorrow, Amy, the puppet show? Don't forget, Amy, you have to take me.